Hi, Neville Marten here in the Fret King Lounge. So Trev Wilkinson, the man behind the name you see on the machine heads, bridges and pickups on countless guitars. He's a designer and an innovator, responsible for brands such as Italia, King and Vintage. He's contributed design input to more brands than you can shake a stick at. Today it's Trev Wilkinson Raconteur, as we delve into several decades of electric guitar history to explore Trev's background and hear stories, some of which have never seen the light of day. Will we explode some myths? Let's find out. Hi Trev, so what got you into guitar design in the first place, and perhaps more specifically, guitar parts design?
I'd always been a guitar player from an early age and tinkered with guitars and messed around with things. I built my first guitar when I was at art college in the late 60s, which was a fluorescent orange plexiglass Telecaster style guitar, made from bits and pieces and handmade the body and all those kind of things. And then I went into other forms of employment, and one of them was actually painting cars, doing custom jobs on cars and things. And because I could paint cars, people would then say to me, oh, can you paint my guitar for me? Of course, that necessitated pulling the guitar apart and then putting it back together again. So you start to learn about guitars, their construction, how they work, how you set them up and do all that. And then it was in the very early 80s, whilst I was in Australia with the family, I decided that I would do guitars full time and completely forget about doing cars. And that's when I really started to build from scratch and also learn about the way hardware worked and got me into the design of the first products.
Was that when you designed the roller nut because you could see a deficiency in the workings of the normal guitar nut?
Yeah, it was actually, because I was building guitars and also doing repairs and things that you do. And people were bringing me the fledgling locking systems like the original Floyd and then the Kahler systems. And whilst they had their place and obviously worked very, very well, I felt it was a bit of an overkill, and it took away a lot of the real guitar. But I took a different tack. I thought, okay, well, rather than stop the strings from moving from the nut by having to use clamps and wrenches and things, why can't we have a nut that is mechanical that allows the strings to move backwards and forwards, therefore not snag? Surely that would help a guitar stay in tune, doing it a different way for the same reason.
So I suppose the big break was when Fender took that roller nut on and used it on the Strat Plus.
Yeah, I just wish it happened that fast. Sounds like it was just sort of like, oh, you invented the roller nut and then Fender had it, and there was a lot of hard work and heartache and things in between that actually happening, but basically that's what did happen, yeah.
Speaking of Fender, in your earlier days, did you have heroes like Leo Fender as a great designer, or Ted McCarty, or in fact the UK's Jim Burns?
In those days, we obviously knew about Fender guitars, but the individual of Leo Fender wasn't really as well known then as what he is today because of the way the history's been talking about him. Ted McCarty certainly didn't know of. Jim Burns was a different entity because the Burns guitars were so available and prevalent in the UK in the 60s when I was buying those kind of guitars. I thought Jim had some great innovations, a fantastic inventor, and built wonderful guitars. So probably Jim was more known to me. So yeah, he was definitely an inspiration, whether hero's the right word or not, but certainly an inspiration. But the guy I think that really impressed me the most, and it's something that we continue to this day in our philosophy, is Nathan Daniel, who, you know, some of the people watching this might not know, but that was the guy who did Dan Electro. And I think to be able to produce a guitar of the quality that he did, for the price that he did, was absolutely phenomenal. I think they used to retail in Sears and Roebuck for something like $29.99. I've never played a bad neck on a Dan Electro net yet, and they never even had a truss rod in them. They were just a quarter-inch piece of steel glued to the bottom of a rosewood fingerboard and slammed together. And all the things he did to actually cut corners and save costs, but still produced instruments that today, even from the 50s, are still being used on stage by people like Jimmy Page, for instance. And that was a $29 guitar. So I think that, to me, I've said it many, many times, if you can't build a good guitar for £3,000 or £5,000, then you shouldn't be doing it. The real skill is buying a guitar that a beginner can afford, but it still performs good enough to go on stage in front of 20,000 people. So I think probably that's my hero, really.